Prepare yourself, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't your typical celebrity meltdown. Encased in luxury, deception, and a bit too much brain surgery, this is a complete nightmare. Harris King. Yes, following what was supposedly a routine medical surgery, King Harris, who grew up flashing designer grills before he could even spell humble, reportedly went insane. Please, routine. The Harrises have never been a routine family. There are so many unanswerable questions on the internet right now. What actually took place in that hospital room? Why haven't the physicians spoken up yet? The self-declared King of the South. Why has T.I., who is accused of threatening media outlets, lawsuits, and possibly even his own reflection? According to rumors, King's brain surgery altered him rather than simply failing. According to friends, he wakes up yelling and conversing with strangers. Some speculate about a cover-up, claiming that something terrible happened. Something so sinister that even T.I.'s millions cannot conceal it. Was this a health crisis, or something more serious? Because a Harris doesn't just stumble when they fall, they blow up. Welcome to the Gossip Spill vibe, where mending becomes terrifying, falsehoods reverberate, and fame bleeds. Fame, so the saying goes, gives you everything: cash, recognition, and approval. However, they never warn you about how quickly it can ruin your mental health. For King Harris, it wasn't a brawl, a controversy, or a viral video that caused the devastation. The source was a hospital bed, the same child who boasted about having a wealthy upbringing, who made fun of everyday people on live streams, and who flaunted piles of riches for amusement, is now sitting in silence, his fire and energy gone. In expensive clothing, the Prince of Atlanta, as his admirers once referred to him, appears to be a ghost. The story then starts there. Something went wrong in a clean white hospital, not a recording studio or a club. After a claimed head injury during one of his crazy parties, the surgery was intended to be a minor procedure to relieve pressure in his brain. According to TMZ, it was fatigue, a standard examination. However, rumors circulate that King had been griping about headaches, sleeplessness, and unstoppable voices for months. His pals believed he was being overly theatrical, another pampered star in need of pity. However, T allegedly intervened when the agony became intolerable. Those close to the family claim that T hired the best private team of neurologists available. With his son, he was not taking any chances. However, the danger was already present. The night before the procedure, something occurred. According to reports, nurses heard T yelling with medical workers and requesting that the procedure be expedited. According to one version, he screamed, "My boy ain't waiting another night. Do it now." Rushing medicine is like playing God with a stopwatch. So it may have been stress, fear, or ego, and sometimes God doesn't appreciate it when you do that. Late in the dark, the procedure started. Just silence, whispers, and a father pacing down the corridor in high-end sneakers. No cameras, no reporters. When the doctor eventually appeared hours later, his face spoke for itself. The procedure didn't proceed as expected. King survived, indeed. However, something within him didn't. He spoke incoherently. His mind jumbled. He didn't know Tiny, his mother. "Where's the light? Where's the light?" was the first thing he kept saying, over and over. According to the hospital, the uncertainty was typical following surgery. However, let's face it, when you're wealthy and well-known, normal is whatever your public relations team says it is. Online rumors began to circulate within days. On X, a cousin of a nurse wrote that King was behaving strangely and making up illogical rhymes. A second specialist had been flown in from Switzerland, according to a colleague who told a gossip page. However, the tale spiraled out of control, the more they attempted to control it. Then the video appeared, a brief, hazy video purportedly taken inside the recovery area. It featured King sitting upright, staring at a wall with wide eyes, and mumbling unreal lyrics. He laughs out loud once, and then breaks down in tears. Like wildfire, it spread. The internet went crazy when the caption read, "T's son, after failed brain surgery." He was faking it for attention, according to some. Others used his earlier song's demonic imagery as evidence that he was under possession. The Harris family remained silent during it all. No interviews, no statements, just mystery. But the storm was building behind the scenes. According to insiders, T was incensed at the system as a whole, not just the doctors. According to sources, he even contacted legal teams within days, implying a lawsuit worth millions of dollars. After allegedly telling a buddy, "They messed up my boy, and they think money is going to shut me up." The problem is that you cannot use a lawsuit to absolve yourself of responsibility. Furthermore, T.I. is drowning in guilt because Whispers claims that his demand caused the procedure to be performed too soon. King's health became the talk of Atlanta in the days that followed. He was now despised by those who had formerly mocked his conceit. His name was silently removed from the playlists of clubs that used to play his tunes. Friends ceased coming to visit. Once resonating with commotion, the mansion now sat in unnerving silence. According to reports, Tiny, King's mother, brought in spiritual healers because she believed that during surgery, something evil had attached itself to her son. Ty, however, didn't think it was true. He sought answers, proof, and science. However, the evidence didn't make sense. The test results disappeared. The medical records were lost. Even the surgeon who did the surgery took an unexpected trip to Europe. The trail became cold each time someone attempted to go further. Too chilly. It was almost as if someone had requested it. King's medical report included two versions. According to an unidentified nurse who spoke to a local blog, one reported that the surgery went flawlessly, whereas the other revealed a problem during anesthesia. Which was it then? A small error or a large-scale conspiracy? King's actions, meanwhile, continued to get more bizarre. Neighbors claimed to have heard him shouting lyrics from his own unreleased songs while yelling at the sky one evening. He would write words on his room's walls. They were dishonest. They accepted it. What did you take? Nobody was aware. His parents made an effort to conceal it. But Hollywood doesn't keep secrets like that hidden, particularly not with the cameras constantly in view. And the internet did what it does best, which is to make fun of, distort, and create content out of suffering. Social internet was inundated with memes referring to King as the next Kanye. Some hypothesized about an experimental neural mapping treatment, while others made jokes about botched brain surgery. King volunteered for it, according to some, to foster inventiveness. Others thought he had been duped into an underground medical test. Gone bad. Something much worse. Doesn't it sound crazy? Crazy is currency in the realm of celebrity power, though. By the conclusion of the week, hashtags like DocuH Hospital Scandal and Yet Your Pray for King Harris were popular. Ty's attempts to put them out only served to fan the flames. People thought there was truth to conceal the more he denied it. According to a former Harris family associate, T was even cautioned months ago by another rapper to avoid experimental procedures. Even the best are blinded by vanity. Now, whenever he looks at his son, the same ego haunts him, once boasting that he was made differently. The same child today finds it difficult to form complete sentences. It is both a mystery and a tragedy, for this is not merely a medical mishap. Silence, money, and pride are all contributing factors. The sort of tale where each response just raises new queries. The most important of all is this. Why hasn't the hospital spoken out if King Harris's brain surgery was a complete failure? Why is everyone acting as if nothing? Why is everyone acting as if nothing occurred? Because truth is bought rather than expressed in a city founded on fear and fame. And to keep this one buried, someone merely had to pay a very hefty price. because truth is bought rather than expressed in a city founded on fear and fame. And to keep this one buried, someone merely had to pay a very hefty price. A hospital's stillness was too sterile. No denial, no press release, no evasive, "we wish him well" comment. Nothing. King Harris's name seemed to have been completely removed from their list of patients. The conspiracy started to breathe there. Unwanted connections were made by online investigators, gossip sites, and so-called medical insiders. According to a widely shared thread, the hospital where King had treatment has been implicated in 3 unexplained misconduct cases in the past. Everything was discreetly resolved out of court. According to another, the surgeon had connections to a private clinic that experimented with neuro-optimization techniques for affluent patients, the sort of thing that isn't documented in official documents. Is it a coincidence? Please, coincidence doesn't continue to trend for days on end. The internet erupted once more when a picture purportedly depicting King in a wheelchair with black circles under his eyes and a blank expression went viral. People were no longer merely chatting among themselves. They were enraged. How could someone with that much money experience this? Another comment read, "If T.I.'s son isn't safe, who is?" Fame didn't shield it from exposure for once. However, the Harris family's demise was not quiet. Sources close to the family claim that T and his legal team personally visited the hospital and demanded all of the surgery's paperwork. He allegedly screamed, "I want the footage, the scans, the full report, everything." However, he received nothing at all, not even an apology. Just kind smiles and ambiguous phrases like ongoing review and confidentiality. T.I. lost it at that point. He allegedly vowed to overthrow the entire system and accused the physicians of falsifying the evidence. This is the part that darkened the situation though. A week after working that night, a nurse inexplicably quit and deleted her social media profiles. Another employee moved to a different city. The aide to the surgeon was sacked. Suddenly, everyone who may have witnessed something was gone. It resembled a purging in medicine. And when people vanish so quickly, it's always control rather than chance. In the meantime, King's health deteriorated much further. According to reports, Tiny summoned a group of private guardians who were instructed to keep him off social media. However, the internet is not easily forgotten. One evening, King's former Instagram account posted a live video. Even though it was short, 42 seconds, it was sufficient. They said they'd fix me. They lied. King was seen on camera, sitting in his dark chamber, mumbling, his eyes darting back and forth, almost paranoidly. "Don't trust them," he then remarked, glancing directly at the camera, and the feed abruptly stopped. The video was already screen captured and widely circulated when the post vanished a few minutes later. The most talked about thing on the internet was that 42-second video. Everyone jumped on it, including YouTubers, gossip bloggers, and aspiring conspiracy theorists. According to some, King was cautioning fans about the medical field. Some thought it was a ploy by T to use his son's breakdown to sell a new documentary, while others suggested it was a plea for assistance. Particularly when the reality is too unpleasant to accept, people will believe anything but the truth. However, insiders claiming to be close to the case revealed a completely different scenario, one that combines power, incompetence, and a potential cover-up costing millions. So let's go ugly for a while. According to them, the operation was carried out as part of an experimental grant, a collaboration between the hospital and a private biotech business that specializes in improving cognitive function for high-end patients. Translation: brain testing for wealthy individuals seeking to prolong their cognitive abilities. King wasn't a patient if that's the case. He was being tested, and they needed it removed after that test went awry. It grew louder the more the Harris family fought to stop it. According to anonymous hackers, T.I.'s management team and the hospital board exchanged emails. The purported communications made reference to non-disclosure renewal, damage control, and confidential pay. It made little difference if those emails were authentic or not, because belief is more potent than fact. In the realm of celebrity truth, people trusted them. The rumors were too much for Ty, who is notorious for his fiery temper and don't mess with me attitude. He was visibly upset as he paced back and forth while going live on his own Instagram. "Ain't nobody gonna play with my family," he yelled. The internet halted when someone said, "They lied about my boy, and I ain't letting this slide." His grief was sensed by half of the audience. The other half had a guilty odor. Memes, on the other hand, never stopped. The rap community began to respond as well. All of a sudden, everyone was a detective. One producer tweeted, "Hollywood don't heal, it hides." Another said, "That surgery story ain't adding up." Everyone wanted to be the first to solve the case. However, things became darker the more people investigated, as shortly after, an anonymous Reddit user posing as a former medical intern revealed what they called the true reason King's surgery didn't work out. They claimed that King's brain had a momentary reduction in oxygen due to a medical equipment malfunctioning during operation. The surgeon allegedly resumed the procedure and changed the data records to make it seem normal, rather than acknowledging the mistake. The damage was irreparable by the time King awoke. However, with billionaire donors involved, the hospital could not afford the embarrassment. Thus, they rewrote reality, which is what Hollywood does best. The post became widely shared. It was read by millions. Furthermore, the specifics were too exact to overlook. Even though no proof was ever presented, King's illness, his disarray, and his unpredictable actions all made sense. No one was laughing for the first time. They were appalled. In the meanwhile, T.I. intensified, according to insiders. He threatened legal action against several media organizations if they persisted in disseminating false material. He was unaware, however, that his rage only made it worse. The internet was only convinced that there was something to conceal by every effort to stop the rumors. The most terrifying portion followed, the voicemail that was leaked. Online, a recording purportedly sent by T to one of his solicitors was discovered. The voicemail, which was about 20 seconds long and shaky and muffled, contained a frustrated T.I.'s words. "They knew something was off before the surgery. I told them to stop. They didn't listen. Now my boy's gone." It was finished as soon as the internet heard it. Everything changed after hearing that voicemail. King's medical failing was no longer the focus of the plot. It turned into a question of who did it. It was dubbed the Harris Hospital Scandal by bloggers. It was discussed on talk shows, as if it were a political emergency. Investigations were sought to reveal the hospital's covert studies. Some even launched petitions. And in the midst of all this chaos, King's voice was absent, silent, alone, and disconnected from the society he had previously controlled. According to his friends, he no longer goes out, that he repeatedly scribbles the same words in notebooks that are encased in blackout curtains in his room. The light was taken by them. Perhaps it's simply trauma, perhaps it's guilt, or perhaps, just possibly, it's craziness coded as truth. Because too many things don't add up when you think about it. The abrupt resignations, the silent doctors, and the missing records. It's the ideal formula for a contemporary cover-up. This time, however, it has nothing to do with corporations or politics. It tells the story of a child who fell squarely in the shadowy world of medicine after getting too near to stardom. The eerie thing comes after. Weeks later, not a single official investigation has been verified. No accountability, no charges, and no resolution. Just a son's quiet, a father's rage, and a desperate internet search for solutions. Perhaps it is how the strong prevail, simply wearing everyone out until they stop asking questions, rather than simply speaking the truth. Not everyone, though, is remaining silent. Fans have created their own justice for King pages, searching through erased video, locating hospital insiders, and asserting that evidence is still out there. They may sound strange, but until they are verified, every truth begins as a conspiracy. And perhaps this is more accurate than anyone is prepared to acknowledge. Because something unexpected occurred, just as the world was beginning to go on. Something that shattered the entire narrative once more. Someone came forward as a whistleblower, of course, anonymous, speaking from what appeared to be a poorly lit parking garage. Their face was blurred and their voice was distorted. At midnight, the video was posted to a small conspiracy channel, but it quickly became viral. According to the whistleblower, a former medical worker, King Harris was not the only famous patient to pass away following a brain operation at the same hospital. They claimed that 3 more had been covertly moved to rehabilitation facilities abroad. 3 rising stars from influential families share a common trait. Their goal was to improve their mental faculties. The scheme, according to the whistleblower, used a neurointerface that stimulated the brain's creative centers. This covert technology was financed by private investors and marketed to high-end clientele through hush-hush referrals. They promised improved instincts, quicker thinking, and improved memory. But there was a fault in King's instance. The voice said that the mapping was rejected by his brain. Rather of improving concentration, it caused instability. They were aware of it right away, but they were unable to reverse it. The internet exploded as the whistleblower moved closer to the camera and muttered, "He wasn't sick. He was a project." All of a sudden, this was more than one botched procedure. The rich played scientists on their own children in an underground system. All media outlets rushed to make statements. The hospital refuted all of the allegations, describing them as flimsy digital fabrications. However, nobody bought it. There were too many details that matched. There are too many coincidences. And the most important question remained. Why were King's records locked under private research status if he was only a patient? It was not favorably received by T.I. During a dispute with his legal staff, he reportedly broke a flat screen, according to insiders. He was looking for names, evidence, and a culprit. In a private meeting, he allegedly approached one of the board members and said, "You used my family as your experiment." The board member allegedly answered with a single icy line, "You consented by signing it." That was the tipping point. Within days, T was captured by paparazzi ranting at reporters as he stormed out of his estate. "They killed my boy's spirit." His outburst turned into a public spectacle, but there was more suffering beneath that rage. A guy who came to the realization that his wealth, reputation, and power were insufficient to safeguard what was most important. And it went viral on the internet. No one was making fun of them anymore. As if it were a genuine crime story, they were riveted to every update. Then there was another twist. Leaked video from a hospital. Weeks after surgery, King was shown it during a rehabilitation session. He was watching flashing images on a screen while seated in a chair connected to wires. He appeared composed at first. Then he started to shake and yelled, "Stop! Stop the noise!" Before he fell forward. Even though the video ended there, it was enough to start a fire. Although an internal breach was identified as the cause of the leak, the original source disappeared. Again, there were no names or arrests, just stillness. But the digital mob cannot be silenced. Investigation boards replaced comment sections. People slowed down the video and examined each frame, saying they saw symbols on the screen that looked like business logos, or a doctor grinning in the background. It was messy, wild, and compulsive, the exact way scandals endure, and all the theories converged on the same conclusion. King Harris was in good health. He had changed. King's condition, meanwhile, was still uncertain. He posted mysterious messages like, "I see the static now, and they made me forget." On other days, he was absolutely absent. On other days, he talked clearly. There is a rumor that he has been relocated to a private estate outside of Atlanta that is constantly monitored. His family refers to it as recuperation. It's known as confinement on the internet. Desperate, little, and heartbroken, they apparently turned to religion. Pastors, healers, and even a clairvoyant who said she could purify the energy surrounding King's spirit were among those she invited. "Bring my baby back," was whispered by one witness throughout the ceremony, but nothing changed. People who have recently seen King say that his eyes no longer gleam. He appears to be awake but not living. This is when it becomes even more bizarre. King repeatedly mentioned a name, Dr. Niles, according to insider leaks. Before Sleuth's web investigation revealed that a physician named Everett Niles had previously worked at the same hospital before inexplicably departing 2 months prior to King's surgery. Nobody was aware of who that was. His license was stopped for administrative grounds, and his internet profile was removed. You guessed it, he was an expert in the study of cognitive enhancement. The internet exploded. Overnight, numerous movies, podcasts, and threads appeared with the promise of revealing the truth. Some even asserted that Dr. Niles left the nation. T.I. had reached his breaking point. He is reportedly drafting a comprehensive case against the hospital, as well as the biotech investors that funded it. He's calling it a battle for my son's mind, according to people close to his team. Fans, however, have a more sinister idea that the case will never go to trial because there are too many influential people and too much money involved. According to some, T will be presented with $1 million silent settlement. Some people think he's already taken it. The public is still asking though, why was a surgeon with suspended research cleared by the medical board? Why was an alias used to log King's procedure? What caused the operating wing security cameras to malfunction during those critical hours? Everything about it smells like a lavishly prepared cover-up. Then a fresh clip appeared, as if it had been predetermined. A movie taken at home a few weeks prior to King's operation. "They suggested they could make me smarter," he remarked, chuckling live on Instagram. "Watch me emerge as a super genius, bro." Now that line struck a different chord. It wasn't assurance. It hinted to things to come. Science's hunger collides with youth's conceit, and tragedy in diamond chains is what remains. The Harris family is now split up. T desires retribution. Tiny desires tranquility. A deleted tale, purportedly made by one of King's siblings, read, "They took our brother for views." Fans screenshot it, of course, because nothing dies online. Not rumors, not grief, not ghosts. And that's the issue with this whole story. King's siblings hardly ever speak in public. Long ago, it was no longer about brain surgery. It's about what happens when science and celebrity are combined in an unbalanced way. When celebrities turn medicine into advertising. King Harris is not your typical Hollywood casualty when a young man is into the news before he has had time to recover. He is a representation of what occurs when people lose sight of the fact that human minds are not used for commercial purposes. Months later, a parent is still battling shadows, and there is still no justice or closure. Perhaps the whole truth will never be known. Perhaps it has already been paid for, rewritten, deleted, and buried beneath non-disclosure agreements. But there's no denying that King Harris paid the price when things went terribly wrong at that hospital. Some claim that he will get better and that he is making progress. Others mutter that something or someone has taken the place of the former king, who is no longer there. If that seems unrealistic, keep in mind that everything seems strange until it's captured on tape. Because celebrity doesn't cure anything in this life. It simply makes the wounds more invisible. And nobody wants to share that story. They said you are protected by celebrity. that nothing can affect you if you're wealthy, influential, and descended from hip-hop royalty. However, King Harris is a real example of how even the brightest lights can fade into darkness when those closest to you become more concerned with maintaining your image than with your soul, because this was more than a botched procedure. He was let down by this system, a system that treats trauma like popular news and celebrity agony like entertainment. As the true question is yet unanswered, people are currently making fun of a young man whose mind might never fully heal by sharing videos and tweeting memes. In reality, what took place in that operating room? Why are rumors circulating that T.I. is thinking so? Why are rumors circulating that T.I. is thinking so?